Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and if you breed fish, the tool that we're going to talk about today is probably something you have several of. But if you don't, I think this is one of the most versatile tools for your fish room, for more than just breeding. And today we're going to talk about breeder boxes. So for those who breed a lot of fish, this probably looks very familiar, although the packaging has changed. This is a large breeder box. They used to be made by Marina, which Marina is a Fluval brand, but it looks like they've kind of redone the packaging, and now they're just going to call them Fluval. This is the large. There's also a smaller version, which I still have one in the Marina packaging. For those who've been following the channel for a while, there was an insane Amazon deal on these things a while back, and I noted that deal to my community tab. And I picked up like 5 of these things because they're so versatile. And if we put them side by side, you'll see right away, like, just on the packaging, you can tell there's a big difference between the two. Now, I think both have their place, and there's even kind of a third version, which I'll show in a minute, which is the same rough size as the large, is about half a gallon, made by a company called Insta. And there's some small differences. We're not really going to go over that, but we're going to go over some of the many, many uses for a breeder box and why I think these things are so amazing. So let's talk the quick basics about one of these before we get into why they're so amazing and handy. If we're looking at the large box, the small box is the same. The only difference is the large box has room for dividers. And if we look at those dividers, you can see that they've got slots to let water flow through, but they're fairly thin. So what you can do is separate a mother into one portion of it, and then let the fry be elsewhere, especially with very, very small baby fry. They'll be able to get through these, and there's usually a gap at the bottom and the top. They can get past. The parent can't. Works great. The other way that I like using these, we'll talk about later. They're all air-driven, so it's going to have a little lift tube assembly like this. Airline goes down here. It has a slide, so you can adjust how deep you want it, and then a small trickle of water is going to come in through here, in through the intake of the box, give you water flow, and it goes out here, and there's a small grate that goes here just to block debris from getting out. Then you also, in the lid has a little lock, you have a little feeding hole, if you can see that right there as we hold all these parts. So here's one of those grates, and it might be hard to see, but tiny, but still big enough for certain fry to get through. So one of the tricks we'll talk about for kind of upgrading these things will involve that. Now, why I like these? Pretty simple. Because it just hangs on the side of a tank and has little weights, a lot like an AquaClear filter, just to hold it in place, you're using the same water as whatever is in that tank. So if you're separating, say, pregnant guppies out, they're in the same system, they're getting the same heat, it just hangs and needs one airline. Because we're pushing that nice oxygenated water into this box, it's going to come out here. You're still getting that airflow. It is a little less, admittedly, but we can keep our fish here, keep them safe. And if you've got a fish that's getting picked on, you can put them in here as well to protect them for a little bit, let them get a little better, heal up, return them to the tank, and hopefully things will settle down and they won't get picked on as much. Now, I mentioned before that there is another manufacturer of these called Insta. Here's the Insta hang-on. You can see it looks basically exactly the same as the hang-on Marina, or now Fluval, for the large. There's some small differences in this, and really all it comes down to is the Insta is slightly cheaper, if you're looking at, say, Amazon prices, and it doesn't hang on tanks very well once you get to 55 gallons or larger. The gap from the hang-on piece, not quite as wide, so it doesn't hang on as good. But if your tanks are smaller, say 20 gallons, your 20 longs, up to about a 40 breeder, these still work great, and it saves you a few bucks. But overall, the difference is kind of small. I think it's like $5. It's not huge. And every once in a while, you're going to see one of the two of these go on sale, which tends to be the best time to buy them. So now that we've seen what they are, we've gotten a rundown, let's talk about some tips and tricks for using these things. First, we're going to start when it comes to fish breeding, because the name implies it. It's a breeder box. They're really designed for doing that. Some of the best uses that I've seen, and I have personally used, tend to involve egg scatterers or some kind of egg-laying fish. You take the eggs out away from the parents to keep them safe. You keep them in the same water in the breeding box, let them hatch out and raise up to a certain size in the box before they go to a fry raising tank. Or if they're something where once they hit a certain size that's relatively easy to keep, you can then move them in with the parents. You could do that. So I've seen this done with zebra plecos, corydoras. I've done it personally with rainbow fish. A lot of the live bearers like guppies and stuff, if you have more aggressive parents, you might move those parents, especially the pregnant females, into the breeder box right before you know, like, she's super gravid. She's about to have babies any day now. Move her into the breeding box, get her to have her fry, then get her back into the tank and let the fry raise up there for a little bit, get that first couple of weeks of size, and then move them back into the colony once they're a safe size. Now, one of the cool things you can do is when it comes to cleaning these, because there's not a lot of water flow, you do kind of have to clean them yourself. Let's talk about a couple of tips when it comes to the breeding side of working with these breeder boxes. So I'm going to grab one real fast. Okay, so first things first. One trick that I have kind of adapted, and this one's not done, it's going to be done in the near future, is from Master Breeder Dean. If you've seen his fry system, and for some reason you haven't, that video is going to come up in the corner right now. The trays that he uses, he paints the bottoms up to a certain amount white. So all he does is, like, you would tape off this area here and paint the bottom white. Now, why do we do that? It makes it a lot easier to see the fry. Also, it makes it very easy to see just how much detritus is in there so that we can go, oh, it's time to clean it out. Now, a trick that I got from Mike B, who, by the way, shout out to Mike B. He was actually the one that suggested this video. This came straight from one of the members on the members Discord. If you're a member, you get access to the Discord at certain levels. Temporarily, during COVID, I made that available to everyone, and once you get in, you're in permanently, unless you are doing some no-nos. But what Mike likes to do when he's going to clean these out is he will get a second breeder box, and that could be a smaller one. It doesn't have to be a large if you're using larges. And he'll set that to the side, and he'll siphon from this breeder box into the other one. So just in case he caught any fry, he's got them in a second breeder box and can wait for all that detritus to settle and see those fry and move them back into the now clean breeder box. Easy peasy. And then you've got all that detritus in one spot. You just take the dirty one, empty it, you're done. Nice and simple. Now, the next trick that I would say is worth doing involves a divider. So let's grab one of those, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a divider and take it to the furthest slot over in a large box. If you have very, very small fry, like rainbow fish, it's really easy for them to get out of this. So one trick that I've adapted is turning this kind of into a giant Matan filter. You put this divider here, you get some of the big foam squares that you can cut to size, and then just fill this chamber either all the way with foam, or what I like to do, a little bit of foam here, just in a line, that way it's against the wall. Nice and safe, prevents the fry from getting out, keeps them in there, and then this chamber sits open so you can monitor flow. Now the other thing you can do is get some superfine mesh, like 200 micron or something like that, or 150 micron. And instead of having this little bitty gap here, you would then adhere a custom cut piece to this so that nothing's really getting through there. That's going to help protect your fry and keep them inside rather than using, say, like a piece of foam. Although foam can work if you do it right, or sponge or something like that. I have had troubles in the past, like trying to jam foam in this little spot. So putting a little wire mesh over the top of this so that that is still nicely set here, right? So you got your gate. And you just got on the front side of it here a nice wire mesh to prevent anything from happening. Makes this a far better place to raise a lot of your very, very small fry. So you could do this with like CPD fry. You could do this with rainbow fish fry. There's a myriad, like, I think Corys and Plecos are really great because they stay low so you don't have to worry about this stuff. It is good to, like, gate them in some way, shape, or form. For those of you who really like those USB air pumps that the Aquarium Co-op carries, it's basically perfect for the amount of airflow you need to power any size of these breeder boxes. So you can have those little USB air pumps, have a dedicated air source. It's super simple, it's super cheap, and more importantly, it doesn't really use any power. And you're using all that same water source again, another big benefit. But one of the other things you can do with these is, much like a specimen container, if you're trying to take pictures of your fish, drop a fish in here. You could paint the bottom black and the back black, right? So the back would be the part that's against the tank. And now you've got a nice, clear surface to shoot a fish in. Give it some time to relax inside there because it's getting water flow and all that kind of stuff. Shoot a picture. Or, do you ship fish? Catch your fish into here. They're sitting in the same water. They get to stay nice and protected inside of this until it's time. And then all you have to do is stop the airflow, pick the box. You can literally use part of the box to get some of the water directly from the tank. Get your fish in there. Get them in the mail. Get them to a happy, happy person that's getting brand new fish. And the whole time those fish have been chilling in their own water, getting oxygen, being nice and safe. I think it minimizes any risk of getting as much stress on the fish. Really, really nice idea. Again, some of these are ideas from Mike. Now, a lot like the specimen containers, if you're familiar with those, you could use these as just to hang on the tank and hold your tools. If you're working on plants, you could take plant trimmings and put them in here with some water to keep them safe and healthy if you're going to move them to another tank. Or maybe you're going to replant them, so you need them to stay in good shape for a little while you do the rest of your maintenance. Beyond plants, what else could we do with this? Well, if we wanted to very, very slowly let a live food like scuds or Daphnia out, place them in here. Let's talk about a couple downsides that you are going to experience with these hang-on breeder boxes. Number one, because of the way that the lift tube is designed, it can be a little loud. There's going to be a bit of a gurgle sound. If the sound of a sponge filter bothers you, this might not be the best solution because they are quite loud, like putting a lot of air through a sponge filter. I haven't really found a way to dampen that sound for those who might be thinking, well, there's got to be a way to dampen it. I'm sure you could do some crazy DIY solution to figure that out, but I haven't. And I don't know that it's worth it. It's not that loud. And most of us are used to the sound of air stones or something like that. So it's not too horrible. But if you really, really are adverse to that sound, these are a little loud. The second thing that I will say is that they can be something that if you are not prepared for it, right, you haven't blocked this off or something like that, you can't think, oh, my fry will be perfectly safe. It's just an in-the-box solution, and then you start losing fish. You do need to take some precautions. Now, larger fish, it's not so bad. Plecos, really, you don't have to worry about them. But if you're doing very small fish, like your CPDs, your rainbow fish fry, you do want to take some kind of solution to help prevent them from getting toward this portion. I generally, like I said, use this, put a piece of cut foam here. It acts kind of like a giant Matan filter. It's pretty great. That's my biggest suggestion. I mean, you could also put a second divider here and literally force this as a whole chamber and then have this open and have the rest of this area for your fry. It really limits their swim space, but it's the safest possible way to do that. I've gone over a lot of different ways you can use these. I'm sure you guys can think of more. So what I'd love to hear down in the comments is, what do you use these for that I haven't talked about? Whether it has to do with breeding fish or something I didn't mention, put your tips down below. I'd love to read them. And who knows, maybe we'll make a second one of more tips just generated from your comments on how amazing the breeder box really is. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Maybe even share it. That helps with the magic YouTube algorithms. Seriously, I cannot tell you enough that if you're not a subscriber and you subscribe, like, and comment, that's the biggest way to help grow any YouTube channel out there. it can be even more important than like becoming a member or donating to a person's Patreon, which, you know, those things are totally appreciated, don't get me wrong, but honestly, just like, comment, subscribe. It's like the best thing in the world for any YouTube channel, especially if you've enjoyed learning tips and tricks for things like these simple little plastic boxes and how you can make them way, way more useful than you might have thought in the first place. If you didn't enjoy this video, if you think that this is not as useful as I say it is, and clearly the best tool in your arsenal is something different, you can hit the thumbs down twice. I'll understand. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.